Beneath the ordinary world lies a veil, and behind it, the voices of the lost still whisper.
We are your guides into the shadows, where true crime meets the paranormal.
From chilling crimes to haunted histories, we uncover the stories that refuse to rest.
This is Veil of Echoes.
The wind cuts across the empty fields of Plainfield, Wisconsin. Snow drifts against a sagging farmhouse, where the curtains never move, though someone is always inside. Neighbors whisper about the quiet man who lives there. Odd, reclusive, always watching. Step closer, and the windows stare back like empty eyes. The porch sags under your weight, boards creaking as though the house itself is groaning. You push open the door, and the smell hits first. Damp, rot, mixed with something sharp. Metallic? The kind of scent that clings to your skin, sinks into your clothes, and follows you long after you've left. Inside, the lamplight glows with an unnatural hue. Shadows crawl across walls where furniture is stitched together from flesh. Masks stare from the darkness. Death clings to every surface, every nail, every quiet corner. This isn't the setting of a horror movie. It's real, and the name tied to it still chills us to this day. Ed Gein.
Welcome to Veil of Echoes, where true crime collides with the paranormal, and the past refuses to rest.
We're your hosts. I'm Lindsay.
I'm Zach.
And I'm Bria. This is where we tell the stories of history's darkest crimes and the strange energy they leave behind. Some echoes live in police reports and courtroom testimonies. Others linger in boarded-up farmhouses in the silence of small towns that never forgot. Before we begin, a warning. This episode contains disturbing details, including grave robbing, human remains, and descriptions of violence. Listener discretion is strongly advised.
So, who exactly was Ed Gein? The man later dubbed the Butcher of Plainfield. To understand, we have to start with his childhood and the isolated world that shaped him.
And with Netflix releasing their new monster series featuring Ed Gein, it feels like the perfect time to revisit the true story behind the farmhouse, the one that inspired decades of horror.
Edward Theodore Gein was born on August 27, 1906, in La Crosse County, Wisconsin. His family life was troubled from the very start. His father, George, was a violent alcoholic who stumbled from one failed job to the next, bitter at the world and at himself. But it wasn't George who truly shaped Ed's world. That power belonged to his mother, Augusta. Stern, fanatically religious, unyielding, she believed the world outside her door was steeped in sin, and she wanted her two sons, Henry and Ed, to know it. Day after day, she opened her Bible and thundered verses of judgment and damnation. Passages about the corruption of flesh, about the harlot of Babylon, about the fires that awaited sinners. Ed listened, trembling as her voice filled the house. He didn't just hear her words. He absorbed them like gospel. When Ed was 8 years old, Augusta uprooted the family and moved them to a 155-acre farm in Plainfield. This was more than a move. It was an escape. The farm was bleak and remote, surrounded by flat fields and marshland. Winters brought howling winds that rattled the thin walls of the farmhouse. Summers brought steaming marshes, thick with clouds of biting insects. Neighbors were few and far between. For Ed and Henry, it was a prison without walls. School offered Ed his only glimpse of another life, but he didn't fit in there either. His drooping left eyelid gave him a strange, uneven stare. He was painfully shy, soft-spoken, and awkward. And then there was the laugh. a strange, high-pitched giggle that slipped out at the wrong moments, startling and upsetting. Other children noticed. They mocked him, whispered behind his back, called him names. To them, Ed was weird. To Ed, school was just another reminder that he didn't belong. And so every day, he trudged home through the empty fields, back to the farmhouse, back to Augusta, waiting with her Bible open. Her voice was louder than the teasing of her classmates, louder than his father's drunken rages, and Ed clung to it. He clung to her. Where others saw suffocation, Ed saw devotion. Where others saw cruelty, he saw safety. Augusta wasn't just his mother. She was his protector, his compass, his entire world. But when your world becomes a single person, losing them doesn't just leave you broken. It leaves you hollow. And hollowness always finds a way to be filled. So before we move on, let me ask you guys something. If Ed had been born into a different family, like no Augusta, no isolation, or living at a farm in the middle of nowhere, do you think he would have turned out the same, or was he doomed from the start?
That's a good question for that one.
I think Augusta had a lot of, influence, definitely.
I feel like if the mom wasn't the way she was, he probably would have been a different person. But who knows? He could have just been, just doomed from the start. He could have a chemical imbalance in his brain.
Yeah. Because I don't think his brother turned out that way. Like that. I'm sure he had issues, but
some issues, but
Augusta, the isolation, the farm, all had a lot to play in it. I feel maybe in a different situation, not as crazy, but only time would tell.
Yeah, no matter what, the dude's crazy.
Yeah. Sorry about the cat noises.
They're just singing the song of their people. It's all good.
Yeah.
A little singing from some cats actually might
help lighten up the story.
Might lighten up the story a bit for some people.
Yeah, true.
But we're getting into some pretty gnarly stuff. But you never know. The cats might be smoothing.
The cats. Yep.
By the mid-1940s, death had already started to close in on the Gein family. The first to go was Ed's father, George. Years of drinking had left him a broken man, lashing out at Augusta and the boys when the bottle took hold. He was bitter, violent, and useless when sober. In 1940, his body finally gave out, some say from heart failure, others from a ruined liver. He was just 66. For Ed and Henry, there was much grief. George had been more of a burden than a father, but his death left Augusta in complete control. With no buffer between her and her sons, her grip became absolute. Only 4 years later, death struck again, this time under stranger circumstances. In May of 1944, Ed and Henry were out burning brush on the farm when the fire got away from them. Fire crews rushed to contain it, and when it was finally out, Ed told them he couldn't find his brother. A search party formed, but when Ed led them into the marshes, he walked straight to Henry's body, as if he already knew where it was. Henry was lying face down in scorched earth. He hadn't been burned. The official cause of death was listed as asphyxiation from smoke, but there were strange bruises on his head, marks that didn't fit the story. No real investigation followed. Plainfield was a small town. People accepted the report, but whispers started almost immediately. Neighbors remembered that Henry had begun speaking out against Augusta. He called her fanatical, controlling. To Ed, who adored his mother above all else, those words must have sounded like betrayal. Did he silence Henry to protect her? We'll never know. But from that day forward, Ed was alone with Augusta. Just a year later, in 1945, she suffered a stroke that left her partially paralyzed. Ed became her caretaker, tending to her obsessively, cooking and cleaning while hanging on her every word. But by the end of the year, a second stroke claimed her life. For most sons, losing a mother is devastating. For Ed, it was like the earth opening beneath him. Augusta wasn't just his parent. She was his entire world, his shield, his compass, his only friend. In his later confessions, he said it outright. He'd lost his only love. Ed coped in his own way. He sealed off the parts of the farmhouse that had been hers, the parlor, the sitting room, and Augusta's bedroom. Curtains drawn, furniture polished, Bible still on the nightstand. They became shrines, frozen in time, untouched.
It's so creepy.
But the rest of the house was a different story. Trash piled high, newspapers and magazines rotted in stacks. Dishes went unwashed. Rats scurried through the shadows. Years later, investigators would shudder at the contrast. On one side of the house, rooms preserved in immaculate silence, as if Augusta might walk in at any moment. On the other, filth, rot, and decay. And in the middle of it all was Ed Gein. Quiet, solitary, keeping his mother alive in the only way he knew how. But grief and loneliness don't just sit still. They fester, and soon Ed's private world would curdle into something far more grotesque. So let me ask you both, do you buy the official story of Henry's death? Or do you think Ed had a hand in it?
Oh, yeah, he had a hand in it.
100% had a hand in it. You cannot tell me that that boy was laying down face first without any burns on him.
Well, not only that, he led them straight to his body.
I mean, oh yeah, I can't find my brother, but guess what? I can lead you straight to his body.
Well, that and...
Can you help me find my brother? I don't know where he's at. Oh, wait a minute. I might know where he's at.
Well, I think him finding out how he was talking bad about their mom made him...
Oh, yeah.
And then he's like, well, I'm going to have her all to myself then.
He's like, that's the love of my life, you dirty little bitch.
I'm just curious, too, if Augusta might have put it into his head that his brother needed to be silenced.
I mean, that could be a possibility.
How did all of a sudden the fire just got out of their control? I mean, they've been doing this for a while under the strict guidance of Augusta. So I don't think they would have just let it slip away. I think he purposely did it, let them in there, killed them, let the fire burn. And then when the firefighters got there, they had a story of him dying of asphyxiation.
Yeah.
Asphyxiation.
It's kind of a crappy word to try and say anyway, so...
Yeah.
I always want to say asphyxiation.
I know.
I'm like, what the fuck is that?
That's a different word, asphyxiation.
I just wonder why there was no investigation followed, because they even said they found strange bruises on his face.
And yeah, why does it matter if it's a small town? You should still investigate the death.
Yeah.
I think they just kind of went with what they got, and they just...
Yeah, lazy work. They wanted it solved, and they wanted it done.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
After Augusta's death, Ed Gein's world became smaller and stranger. On the surface, he was still the quiet handyman of Plainfield. He fixed farm equipment for neighbors. He even babysat their children. Parents trusted him because he was mild-mannered and polite, always ready to help. He'd sit in their living rooms reading fairy tales or cowboy stories to kids before tucking them into bed. To the townsfolk, he seemed almost harmless. A shy, awkward man who had never married and still lived on the family farm. By day, he was the quiet neighbor who fixed tractors and soothed children to sleep by lamplight. By night, the same gentle facade unraveled.
I think is it facade?
Facade.
Facade, that's what
Oh,
it
see,
is.
I'm already saying it. Okay.
Facade.
When I heard I've never seen it spelled, but.
All right.
All right.
Facade. By day, he was the quiet neighbor who fixed tractors and soothed children to sleep by lamplight. But by night, that same gentle facade... I did it again. Didn't I? Facade. Facade. Okay.
Siri, stop. Quit.
Siri, you got something you want to add?
I didn't get that.
Not the phone. The phone always thinks we're talking to her, not our cat.
Okay. Facade. By day, he was the quiet neighbor who fixed tractors and soothed children to sleep by lamplight. By the night, that same gentle facade unraveled. When the sun went down and Plainfield streets grew silent, Ed's loneliness turned into something darker. He began prowling cemeteries. He studied obituaries in the local paper, circling the names of middle-aged women who reminded him of Augusta. Then, late at night, he'd drive to the graveyard. He later told investigators it felt like he was in a trance, almost like sleepwalking. Sometimes he came to his senses and turned back. Other nights, he dug. Though he stole dozens of women from their graves, Augusta's body was left undisturbed. For Ed, she was sacred, sealed away in the cemetery while her memory haunted every corner of his farmhouse. Ed admitted to visiting as many as 40 graves. Fresh burials were the easiest. He'd dig through the damp soil, pry open the coffins, and lift the women out. He'd then load them into his truck and take them home. But Ed was careful. After taking what he wanted, he would shovel the earth back into place, smoothing it over so the grave looked untouched. Families returned to mourn at the headstones, never realizing the coffins below were empty. Or worse, disturbed and incomplete. Inside the farmhouse, he dismembered the corpses and put them to use. There were bowls carved from skulls, chairs upholstered in human skin, masks fashioned from faces, a lampshade stitched with flesh, gloves made from women's hands, a belt woven with human nipples, boxes filled with noses, fingernails, and organs. Everywhere you turned, something ordinary had been twisted into something grotesque. A kitchen chair looked normal at first glance, until you realized the leather was someone's skin. The lamp gave off a soft glow, but the stitched seams showed through the shade when the light hit just right. On the walls, faces stared back like hunting trophies, empty eyes, mouths frozen in silence. The house smelled of rot and dust, of iron and mildew. Deputies who stepped inside said it felt like walking into a nightmare, one that looked back at you through hollow sockets and grinning, stitched mouths.
It reminds me of Jeepers Creepers.
Good Lord. This dude is fucked up.
When he slides down the pipe into under the church.
Oh. Mm-mm.
That's what it reminded me of.
Mm-mm. And most disturbing of all was the woman suit. Using the skin of the women he exhumed, Ed pieced together a suit he would climb into, complete with breasts and a vulva. Are you fascinated by the word vulva?
I mean, how do you know what his mama's area looked like? That's what I want to know.
I don't know.
Because he was probably peeking on her in the middle of the night and shit.
He did say that was his only true love.
I mean...
He never had a wife, no kids, no girlfriend.
Yeah.
I told you I laugh when I get uncomfortable.
When he wore it, he said he felt like he could become Augusta again. In his mind, this wasn't madness or even murder. It was transformation, collecting, reshaping, trying to step back into the shadow of his only love. Gein denied ever engaging in sexual acts with the corpses, though investigators and psychiatrists questioned whether his dismemberment and his so-called woman suit revealed a darker compulsion. Whether or not he acted on it physically, Ed's crimes were steeped into sexual obsession and grief, a grotesque attempt to recreate the presence of his mother. And while most of Ed's horrors came from the graveyard, not all of them did. So I'm curious. Do you think it's creepier that he left Augusta's grave untouched, or that he tried to rebuild her piece by piece with different women?
That.
100% that. If you're gonna try and make your mom, you just dig her up.
What? I just want to know how he got that. What came across his mind one day and then like, oh.
He wanted the first studded belt, so he made a nipple belt. I don't know.
I was about to say that's when the emo culture came in. When instead of,
I mean, for somebody who's obsessed with their mother, I feel like, yeah, you left her done to be sacred, but wouldn't you have dug her up to have her back and to preserve her?
Yeah, but it was like a shrine. He wanted to leave it sacred,
Yeah, but
It's undisturbed, kind of like her rooms. And it's creepy, just leaving it how like she could walk through the door any minute.
For years, Ed Gein satisfied himself with grave robbing. In his own words, he wasn't a killer. He was just borrowing, taking what he needed to build his strange collections. But eventually, the graves weren't enough.
Collecting? There's a difference between collecting collectibles,
Borrowing.
and borrowing.
I don't know how you could borrow.
There is no
you're
way.
Not bringing the body back.
There's no way that you could borrow that unless you're going to be like 10 years down the road. I'm going to return this lampshade to this grave spot. Or I'm going to return these curtains to this grave. I only borrowed them for a little bit.
I don't know.
Yeah, there's borrowed it from my collection. You didn't return it, so I mean, you kind of stole it. On a snowy night in December 1954, Plainfield was shaken when tavern owner Mary Hogan vanished. She was 51 years old, German-born, and well-known around town for her sharp tongue and rough humor. To many, she was the complete opposite of Augusta Gein, loud, foul-mouthed, and independent. The morning after, a regular who would stop in for a beer instead found horror. The tavern was eerily quiet. Behind the counter, the floor was slick with blood. A single spent .32 caliber shell, casing laying near the register. Drag marks streaked across the wooden floorboards, toward the back door and outside. The snow was stained dark, but Mary herself was gone. Police searched the area, but with no body, no witness, and few leads, the case quickly went cold. Around town, people gossiped. Some said Mary had skipped town to start over. Others believed she had been murdered, but without proof, she was simply missing. Ed himself would sometimes joke about it in his odd, quiet way. More than once, when the subject of Mary Hogan came up, he told the neighbors things like, "She's not missing. She's down at my place right now." People laughed it off as one of his strange quirks. No one imagined he was telling the truth. It wasn't until 3 years later when deputies searched Ed's farmhouse after Bernice Warden's disappearance that Mary Hogan's fate was revealed. Her severed head was found, preserved in a paper bag, confirmation that Ed had indeed taken her that winter night and carried her back to the farmhouse, where she joined his collection of horrors. So let me ask you both, which is creepier? That he joked openly about having Mary all along, or that no one in Plainfield believed him enough to stop it?
Probably, I don't know, the first one, because he...
That's what I was thinking.
I mean, that's what I'm going to say, too, that he openly joked about it, because if you can joke about it, you definitely got problems.
Well, not only did he shoot her, he drug her outside, took her to the farmhouse, threw her in the basement, decapitated her, saved her head, and he's just like, oh, yeah, she's at my place. You put her in a hole. She down there.
I just love, though, how the head is in a paper bag.
I don't know how that preserves it.
Like, not even a jar or anything that you can get the head into, a paper
I'm sure he
bag.
did something to it to make it...
Just wait. There's more.
Probably found out how to use formaldehyde and all that kind of shit.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
My question is, did he have nightmares living?
I
His
think
nightmares was probably of him seeing his mom dying.
either that or his nightmares was living without her.
Yeah.
So he couldn't take it anymore.
But I mean, like,
And
being
that's why he made the
surrounded
suit.
by all that stuff. Did you not just have
No, he
nightmares?
literally reached over there staring at somebody's face, staring back at him like, I'm going to read this book. Click, click. Thanks, Bernice.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry, Bernice. I didn't mean that disrespectfully.
Yeah. We don't mean any harm by that.
Then on November 16th, 1957, Plainfield faced another disappearance. That morning, hardware store owner Bernice Warden opened up shop like any other day. She was 58 years old, well liked in town, and known for running a tidy, dependable store. Her son Frank, who also served as the town's deputy sheriff, was out on patrol. Ed Gein stopped in the morning to buy a jug of antifreeze. Bernice jotted the sale down in the receipt book. Her neat handwriting recorded the purchase. It was the last line she would ever write.
Siri.
Chewbacca over there.
Siri, you want to read this next part?
Again, sorry about our cat.
The cat's the best part of the podcast. That's
She
what
wants
everyone's
in.
going to say. They're going to be like, screw the people talking. We hear the cat in the background. That's going to be the best part.
Later that afternoon, Frank returned to find the store eerily quiet. The front counter was smeared with blood. The cash register sat open, drawer pulled wide. On the floor, drag marks and crimson footprints led straight out the back door into the snow. The receipt from the antifreeze was still in the register, timestamped with Ed Gein's name on it. It was as if he had signed his own confession. For Frank Warden, this wasn't just an investigation. It was personal. The last man to see his mother alive was the shy handyman everyone in town thought was harmless. Deputies picked Ed up that evening at a neighbor's house and brought him in for questioning while he sat quietly in custody. Investigators drove out to search his farm. What they found would haunt them forever. In a shed on the property, hanging from the rafters, was the body of Bernice Warden. She had been shot with Ed's .22 rifle, then gutted like livestock. Strung upside down, torso split open from sternum to pelvis, decapitated. In a burlap sack nearby, her head, and beside the stove, a paper bag containing her heart. Whether he intended to eat it or preserve it, no one could say. And when deputies pushed deeper into the house, their lantern light fell on nightmares made real. Skulls turned into soup bowls. Masks made from faces. Chairs upholstered in human skin. A lampshade stitched from flesh. A belt woven from human nipples. Human nipples. And then the final confirmation of Ed's other crime. The preserved head of Mary Hogan. Missing for 3 years, tucked inside a paper bag. The deputies who entered that night were hardened men, used to farm accidents, hunting mishaps, even violent crime. But many later admitted they staggered outside to vomit. The smell of rot clung to their clothes. Nothing, no training, no experience could have prepared them for what they saw inside that farmhouse. The quiet handyman, the neighbor who fixed tractors, babysat children, and shoveled snow in winter, had been hiding a house of horrors all along. I mean, how do you think you would react if you were one of those officers walking through that door?
The same way.
I would probably just stare for a minute.
I don't think I would have made it outside. It would just be...
I was about
And
to
the
say.
smell, though.
Exactly. That's why
I don't even want to imagine what human flesh smells like.
Oh, it probably smelled like, like death, and then, blood, like what, copper, metallic.
Iron.
A hint of old, I don't know.
Dusty, moldy.
Not a good
nasty.
combination at all.
He just had problems.
For sure. Like, man, at least fucking sweep the house. What the fuck?
Make it at least look somewhat livable instead of
Ugh.
not making it livable.
The way they make it sound on the inside is like the outside has to be run down too. I mean, I know that one part they were talking about how the floor was sagging and the porch was sagging, but that should have thrown some kind of like,
Have
do
you
a wellness
seen
check.
the picture of his house, though? It is actually it could have been a gorgeous house if he had.
That's what I'm saying.
Gorgeous
You just let
on
it go
the
to
in or
waste.
gorgeous on the outside, not gorgeous on the inside.
He didn't have mama there to
mean,
tell him what to
if he
do.
didn't do all that, yeah.
He made it look all nice on the outside.
It's actually a decent.
That would have been a
looking
really
house.
pretty house, but you know what? He's like,
He reminds me of the water boy. I love mama.
Pretty much. Yeah, almost.
He even lived in a shack in the middle of the woods, but Louisiana instead of Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
The cheese.
Yeah, I don't know if I seen bowls made out of like skull. I don't know. I would have to. I don't
You
know.
don't want no Cheerios out of a skull bowl?
I'm sure he ate out of them, right?
My question is though, isn't there like in the human skull, at the base of the bottom of the skull, isn't there holes?
I think he flipped it.
Yeah, it
I was
the
about to
top-
say, did he flip it?
Yeah, it was the top part of the skull.
The cranium.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
if
he
you
flipped it and then he,
if you didn't know what you were eating from when you went over there for some odd reason, you're kind of
yeah, it was just like
if you don't know what the bowl that you're being handed to, it's like you find out 10 years down the road, oh my gosh, I ate from a human skull. That's what that was.
kind of like Joe Matheny when he would serve his.
That's
Was
my
it
question.
burgers?
Yes, he mixed burgers with human meat and sold them because,
Yeah, and people ate them.
and they
they didn't
used to
know.
say they were the best burgers they had.
Oh,
He's
Oh.
another one.
He sold a lot of burgers.
He's another one for sure.
Human burgers.
I mean, I understand that people have weird fascinations with things, but to look at somebody in the eye and say, I'm going to kill this person and I'm going to skin them and I'm going to preserve their head and their heart, there's something that's even worse than the mental health going on there.
I mean, at first they were dead, so he was like, "Well, no, they're not useful."
I'm just going to borrow them for a little bit.
That's like Albert Fish. As soon as he saw little Grace, looked her in the eyes, and he said right then and there, he made up his mind to kill and eat her.
Yeah.
I hate that guy.
Him and Ed are probably cousins.
Probably from the same inbred family.
That's my thing, though, because Edmund Kemper, he killed, decapitated, and made sexual love to his mother's head. Ed Gein absolutely refused to do anything to his mother's grave and preserved her whole half of the house, not stepping foot in her part again.
But that's why I liked Bates Motel
Yeah,
so much,
that was a good
because he kept the body.
Yeah.
Like
worked.
they made him keep the body. They didn't do where, oh hey, we're not going to be untouched here. No, that one they were like, Norman and Norma Bates. Norman is going to keep Norma Bates.
That
Body.
was a good show.
I mean, seriously, look at who they're using for Ed Gein.
It comes out next Friday. Yeah, Friday. Next Friday.
Next Friday.
So I guess I have to look forward to watching Charlie Hunnam murder people. Or not even murder people, just stretch their skin over things.
Like, I've seen him murder a few people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Quite
I
a
watched
few
him
people.
shoot his own mother in the back of the head, so what's this difference?
Hey, that was a good episode.
I
That
wouldn't
was a good
change
show.
it.
The discovery of Bernice Warden's body and the grotesque artifacts inside Ed's farmhouse didn't just shock the deputies who were there that night. It rocked the entire community of Plainfield. This was a farming town of less than 700 people. Everyone knew everyone, and almost everyone knew Ed Gein. He was the quiet handyman who fixed tractors, helped on the threshing crew, and shoveled snow in winter. Parents left their children in his care, never suspecting that the man telling them stories by lamplight was going to lampshade stitched from skin. When news of the farmhouse broke, Plainfield became the focus of the nation. Reporters descended from Milwaukee, Chicago, even New York. Headlines screamed words like ghoul, butcher, and house of horrors. Townsfolk shut their doors to outsiders, ashamed that such a monster had lived in their midst. Neighbors who once pitied Ed for being shy or odd now questioned every interaction. One woman told reporters she used to see Ed at her diner almost daily. He always ordered the same thing, pork chops and a glass of milk. Another remembered him laughing to himself as he would read pulp magazines at the library. Harmless quirks, they thought at the time. Now, those same details felt sinister. For the officers who searched the property, the memory never left them. Some deputies later admitted they couldn't speak of it without their voices shaking. They said the stench of decay clung to their clothes, haunting them long after they have left that farmhouse. Hardened men, used to farm accidents and hunting mishaps, had stumbled into something out of a nightmare. And in a way, the farmhouse itself became a character in the story. Crowds of gawkers drove past just to catch a glimpse. Rumors swirled. Some said Ed had eaten human flesh. Others whispered that he'd practiced witchcraft. Most of it was exaggerated, but the truth was disturbing enough. Eventually, the farmhouse was burned down in March of 1958. To this day, no one knows who set the fire. Some believe it was arson, an attempt by neighbors to erase the stain of Gein's legacy, and others think it was simply an accident. But either way, the house was reduced to ashes, leaving only the land and the echo of what investigators saw inside. And when Ed was told about the fire from his jail cell, he didn't cry out in anger or grief. He simply shrugged and said, "Just as well." For him, the house that had once been a shrine to Augusta and later a prison of his obsessions was gone, and Ed seemed strangely at peace with that. So that makes me wonder, if you guys lived in Plainfield back then, would you have wanted the farmhouse preserved as evidence, studied, or destroyed just to erase the horror from the town?
Evidence. 100%. Because you know that there's a shit ton of evidence in that house.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure, yeah.
I think the deputy burnt it down after he murdered his mother.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd do that too. I don't blame. No.
My question is, did they even... I know he, dug up like 40
graves.
or whatever, however
That's what
many.
he said. He said he visited over 40 graves.
So did they ever really find out whose grave he...
Good question.
Dug up?
I mean, if it was all in Plainfield, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
They probably started digging up the fucking graveyard to make sure there's corpses still in the casket.
Yeah. Oh.
Who knows? Only Ed did.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Ed Gein was arrested the same night Bernice Warden's body was discovered. He didn't resist. He went quietly, almost meekly, as deputies placed him in custody. When confronted with the evidence, he didn't deny it. In fact, he spoke openly, even casually, about what he had done. He admitted to grave robbing, to fashioning keepsakes from corpses, and to killing Mary Hogan and Bernice Warden. Officers noted the eerie calm with which Ed described his crimes, as though he were talking about milking cows or fixing a fence. Investigators were stunned not just by details, but by the way he delivered them, detached, almost childlike. He didn't see himself as a monster. He saw himself as lonely and lost without his mother. In January of 1958, psychiatrists examined him. They diagnosed Ed with schizophrenia and a schizoid personality, noting he often seemed unable to separate fantasy from reality. He was declared legally insane and committed to the Central State Hospital for the Criminally Insane in Waupun, Wisconsin, rather than prison. For the next decade, Ed remained there. In 1968, doctors deemed him fit to stand trial, but the proceedings were narrowly focused. He was tried only for the murder of Bernice Warden. Prosecutors believed one conviction was enough. The trial lasted just a week. There was no jury, only a judge, who found Ed not guilty by reason of insanity. He was returned to the hospital where he would remain for the rest of his life. At Central State and later at Mendota Mental Health Institute, Ed became known as a model patient. Quiet, polite, even helpful. Staff described him as almost grandfathery in his later years. He passed time reading pulp magazines, lurid stories about cannibals, Nazis, and grave robbers. It was as if he had found a quieter, more contained version of the world he once created in Plainfield. In 1984, at the age of 77, Ed Gein died of respiratory and heart failure. His body was buried in Plainfield Cemetery beside his family. But even in death, he couldn't escape notoriety. His grave became a grim tourist attraction. Visitors chipped away at his headstone until it was stolen outright in 2000. A year later, it surfaced in Seattle, but it was never returned. Today, Ed Gein lies in an unmarked grave. And as for his property, the burned-out lot where the farmhouse once stood is now privately owned. Nothing remains but vacant land, swallowed by trees and weeds. People still drive past hoping to see something, but there's nothing there anymore. Just an empty field, carrying whispers of what was once inside. But his story didn't stay buried. The grotesque artifacts found in his farmhouse sent shockwaves through American culture. Robert Bloch, who lives just 35 miles from Plainfield, wove Gein's legacy into his novel Psycho. Alfred Hitchcock's 1960 film adaptation brought Norman Bates to the screen. In the 1970s, Tobe Hooper created Leatherface in The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, drawing directly from Gein's horrors. And in the 1980s, Thomas Harris borrowed Gein's grotesque trophies to shape Buffalo Bill and The Silence of the Lambs. Ed Gein wasn't prolific like other killers. He wasn't charismatic or cunning. But the sheer grotesquerie of what he created, the masks, the suit, the shrine to his mother, ensured his legacy would live on. Half in the world true crime, and half in the world nightmares of American horror. So what unsettles you guys more? The crimes themselves, or people idolizing him in TV and movie culture?
The crimes.
The fucked up person who made a decision to bury him in Plainfield, they should have thrown him in the ocean. That's where all his victims were from. Everybody he hurt. I don't care if your fucking family's buried there. You don't belong there.
No.
You did nothing but cause problems that whole time. They thought you were a nice little Ed tractor fixing kid watching bastard, but no.
No.
Yeah.
It is the pop culture, like, immortalizing any serial killers. I mean, wild. Interesting, yes, but to say you have a favorite or be like, oh, this guy, it's a little, he might be psychotic.
Yeah.
There's some that are interesting. You should never have a favorite.
Yeah. If I'm sorry, but some of these people that say, "Oh, I really like the serial killer," I'm like, "What? Why?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's interesting to know what they did and why they did it, but to say, "Oh, I kind of like it," why?"
I don't
Well, in Ted Bundy's case, they really liked him. He got married on trial.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like they just recently had a guy named Zach Wade or whatever that was all over TikTok. He was like a gorgeous looking dude, had half of his face tattooed in
Wade
his skull.
Wilson.
Wade Wilson, yeah.
Because
Deadpool.
Yeah, Wade Wilson.
Yep. Didn't he shot and killed 2 girls? Or did he
Yeah, two.
So
Ran him over or something.
he ran one of them over
Yeah.
until she looked like spaghetti.
What the?
That's his exact words. He ran one of them over until she looked like spaghetti.
That guy's... Ugh.
And there were women
I know.
like, "Oh my God, he's so gorgeous. He couldn't do that."
Gross.
It doesn't matter what you look like.
That's
If you're
gross.
fucking insane,
Luigi Mangione.
like seriously.
Yeah, I don't get that
That's messed
either.
up.
I don't see how any woman could go to Ted Bundy's trial seeing all the evidence. He was even locked up. He wasn't like out running around. It wasn't allegation. These were facts.
Yeah,
He
I
was
mean,
found guilty. And she's still like, "Oh, I'll marry you."
Well, they ended up having, I think, sex while they were doing visitation. That's how she got pregnant with their
dear
kid.
God.
I don't know what
I
prison
wouldn't want
is,
that to be
but
my father. I'd be like, "Fuck that."
Who's your daddy? Well,
Have
I think she's
Well.
like really under the radar now. Like, I think she.
I hope so.
I mean, I would be too, considering that my baby daddy is a fucking serial killer. People don't know.
I mean, Ed Gein's story is he's probably like the most interesting to me. I think, just because I mean, has anyone? I mean, done like wove.
Well, how he nonchalantly told these people that she was in his basement and they didn't believe him because they thought he was a man of the town. Like, yeah, he was a little weird and had quirks, but believe he was completely harmless?
Yeah. I don't know.
So what do we make of Ed Gein? Was he a cold-blooded killer or a lonely man so warped by grief and obsession that he became something else entirely? Psychologists couldn't agree. Some believed he was delusional, trapped in a fantasy where his mother still lived on. Others argued he was a manipulator, perfectly aware of what he was doing. But what's certain is that his crimes blurred the line between reality and nightmare. So much so that they spilled into our culture, shaping the monsters we see on screen even today.
And then there's the question of what lingers. Deputies who stepped into that farmhouse said the stench of decay clung to them, that even after they stripped off their uniforms and showered, they couldn't wash it away. Some admitting they still dreamed of it years later. The lantern light, the shadows on the walls, the faces staring back at them. The farmhouse itself burned down in 1958, but the land remains. Today, it's nothing more than a vacant lot, overgrown with weeds, trees pressing in it at the edges. But visitors say when you stand there, the air feels heavy, wrong, as if the ground itself soaked up Ed's grief, Augusta's domination, and the horrors carried out inside those walls. It makes you wonder, can a place be so marked by obsession and violence that it never truly recovers? Could the echoes of Augusta's grip and Ed's devotion to her still cling to that soil today? So what do you think? Can obsession and grief be strong enough to haunt a place long after the people are gone?
100%. 100%.
The energies that are left behind?
Oh, yeah. Especially with something like that. That's a shitty energy.
I mean, if I saw that in person, it would definitely give me the chills.
Aren't most poltergeists built out of grief
Yeah.
or believed to build spirits of grief that once a ghost comes so obsessed with living again, they beyond a power and become poltergeist?
Yeah. Yeah, but I get it. It's creepy. And that concludes this episode of Veil of Echoes. Don't forget, starting this week, we're bringing you 2 episodes every week. True Crime on Mondays and Paranormal Tales on Fridays. So be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app, and if you can, leave us a review. It helps more listeners step through the veil with us. And with October just around the corner, let's just say we've got some very special things planned, leading all the way to a big Halloween night release.
This Friday, we turn from Plainfield's horrors to one of America's most famous hauntings, a tale whispered in the hills of Tennessee, the Bell Witch.
Imagine voices in the dark that no one else can hear, invisible hands that scratch at the walls, pull at the sheets, strike without warning, a presence so relentless it drove a family to the edge of terror and left behind a legend that still haunts Tennessee to this day.
Until then, keep your ears open.
And the veil closed.